I think it's about time we did another big build. And if you remember rightly, about 18 months to 2 years ago, we built an animal ambulance. Well, guess what? It got crashed into. So, a brand new one to do. Well, I say brand new, it's a 24 plate, which brings some other little problems into it. But the first thing I've got to do is sort this mess out so we can actually get some working done. I know, with so many side quests, I really should be more on top of this, but I'm not. This is why it's in an absolute state. And speaking of side quests, I do all this on my own. So I managed to 3D print myself a little tripod to hold the camera so I can actually crack on and do stuff. See? Side quests. Now, if I'm brutally honest, I was killing some time while I was waiting for the van to come back. You know, it's going out and picking some bits up, actually being used as a van. We have got some stuff to do that's going to mean that we have to do it outside because, well, it's quite full in here. And it's half decent weather at the moment, so I'm going to try and get everything done externally that I need to, and then I can build the bulkhead and stuff inside when it chucks it down later on this afternoon. Well, that's the plan anyway. We'll see how we get on. And just like the first van, we've got the lights to fit in the grille, the spinny top to go on the roof, the flashy lights for the roof, and then that all-important airflow bulkhead. So let's make a start there. Yeah, there really was that many bolts holding this in. But as soon as we get the bolts out, it's a case of just lifting it straight out and then cracking back on with the next one. And that is going to be the spinny rooftop. That seems to be the easiest one to do. So in the packaging, you get the spinny roof, a random empty box that we just don't need, the gaskets, the vents that you need, and then the manufacturer's fixings that I don't know where are for. And an empty box. So we'll put that to one side and then crack on getting that fit into the roof. This one's going to be a little bit easier than last one. Very simple ridges to drill between. So I'm just going to go about there somewhere. Always scary drilling through a roof panel. Now, seeing as though we put a massive hole in the roof, it only seems sensible to, well, deburr it first and then add some sticker flex to it as well as that gasket before screwing the vent to it. And then I actually worked out what those random fixings were. They're actually for the vent to go on, so it just literally sits in place and those 4 clips push it in place. See, with that in mind, first step's done. Onto the roof flashing lights. Now it works, it's actually worth the effort. For starters, cigarette lighters. We're going to put mains, well, say mains, 12 volts to it, and run it from the switch in the dashboard, because we've got some front lights to go in as well. The other side is, I don't know anyone that will actually trust magnets to hold these on permanently. And even if they did, they've all turned up bent and twisted from packaging. So we've got to straighten all that out and then make some proper fixings and get it bolted to the van properly. Now our plan here is quite a simple one. It is going to be use the magnets as a supplementary source rather than the main source of fixings, providing they actually come off. And then we'll just drill straight through there and put in some proper fixings that'll mean, well, it'll actually stay attached to the van, even in those high winds and troublesome ways we go. So yeah, very simply, remove the stupid little cap bolt. No one really likes that one. Keep the fixing point, but then use that to bolt right the way through the van roof and hold it all in place. Sounds straightforward and simple. Now, you don't need to see me taking all those bolts out, but what we did do was then make sure it actually is square on the roof and then mark all the holes up and drill them as we need to. How we fixing it though might be of interest. So we're using something called a riv nut gun, and essentially we're going to be putting in a thread into the steel of the roof, and that way I can simply unscrew this, put a bolt right the way through it, and of course use some sticker flex where needed to make sure that's nice and secure and also watertight. See? Easy job to put threads in something that wasn't already there. Then the last step of the process is about getting those cables from the outside of the vehicle to the inside. And it just so happens there was a handy little grommet right next to where we fitted the light. So obviously we're going to drill through that and fish the cable through it. And that was where I thought the hard bit was going to be. Right, so while the sticker flex sets for the light on the roof, we've come to the engine bay. And I'm trying to figure out how to get a cable from A to B. Now the light grill's dead straightforward. Got to take this trim off. Access to everything. Battery easy access. My problem comes over this side. Here, let me show you. Now the problem I've got is, somehow, I've got to get through that bulkhead all the way back there. So do I have to really take the light out just to get there? Because my arm just isn't long enough to feel where that bulkhead is and pull the cable through. Oh. Right, the light wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now my next problem is trying to work out how to get to the other side of it underneath here. I've taken the trim off and somehow get my hand somewhere near. I just can't feel anything. I can't get to the bulkhead. It's fly-by-wire, there's more cables than what there should be down here. And then probably going to start undoing and taking bolts and trims off and see if I can get access to the other side of that cable. I mean, this is the hard bit. Everything else has been dead straightforward. Hard bit's dealing with manufacturers and how it all clicks together. Bloody dealerships.
346 minutes later.
Oh, he's bloody good. Right, tell you what I did. Did cheat. So we took headlight out, that got us access in, and then underneath there, a bit hard to see, pulled the full grommet out, which then allowed me to poke the hole through the grommet and then get all the access in the world to feed that cable in. So the hardest step is now done. Right, with the grill now on the boat bench, it's time to take the Milwaukee battery and see if these actually power up. Oh, guess they work as well. So I suppose now, get mounted and fitted into the grill. And I suppose before we dress all the cables in, we probably should make sure it actually works. So we can ram them in there. I'd call that a win, don't you? Now with the grill lights complete, sticker flex now dry on the roof, it was then time to dress all the cables in, and of course that's the easy job, just cable tie everything up. And we're not animals, we're going to be actually cutting all those cable tie ends off with flush cuts as well, before moving on to the last scary job of the entire build, drilling out that dashboard for the switch. And with that drill, then the case of just poking the wires through. You know, we've got one from the mains, or they say the mains, the battery, one from the grill itself, and then one from those flashing lights on the roof. So that's 3 cables all through that one hole, putting connectors on them, connecting up the switch, and then we did do something a little bit sensible. We did put an inline fuse in for all of this kit, and that is going to be situated next to the battery. The wiring then runs all the way around the engine bay, nice and neatly tidied up, picks up the wiring for the grill, and then runs into the dashboard. So with that in mind, we can then stick the dash trim back on and then give it a whirl and see if it actually all works. Right, need some double-sided for that to go there somewhere, but for now, just going to live up that on, turn the switch on, turn the lights on, and then flashing lights up there, and in the grill as well. Now how was that for timing? Now it was a bit of a mad rush to kind of get everything in. I've just dumped it in the floor there because it's just started raining, as predicted. But I am losing light in here, and quite frankly, the camera doesn't do that any justice. So I'm going to go home and then come back tomorrow, crack on with the bulkhead. Now, onto the bulkhead. Now I did have a look online, and the next one available for what we want to do is 700 quid. That's ridiculous. And so I was thinking about what I can do, and I originally thought we could make our own grill and cut this section out there. And then when I was going and picking materials up this morning, I had a genius idea. Why don't I just 3D print my own grills? And that's exactly what we're going to do. So with the first grill now off the print bed, time to mark it up and actually drill it out. So I'm going to use a ink pad to mark the corners up, stick that on the side, and then that's where I know where to drill all my holes, etc. Because I've got a hole saw, bring that closer there, that is the perfect radius for those little edges there. So that's the plan. Drill it out, mal it in there, glue it all in place. How hard can it be? Now I might be biased, but those grills have turned out fantastic. The hexagons really just finish it off nicely. So with the bulkhead completed, it's just a case of lifting it back into the van and then, well, doing all those 1,000,001 bolts that hold it back together and then finishing it off quite nicely. And just like that, voila, another big build project complete. And then maybe, just maybe, the mighty, well, Felicia is one step closer to actually getting some time spent on it. But then again, I might just start another project. Catch you on the next one. Ta-ra.